Maybe you can connect with him and find out if it's in.
Mr. Sam, are you in?
We are going for the live stream, ma'am.
Sir,
Just
guest speaker.
we'll find out if the guest speaker is in. Now you can start, Tony. Live streaming. You can start. I think it is 9:53 here. Another 2 or 3 minutes.
He's yet to log in, sir. He's not yet logged in.
It's not yet logged in. Okay. Now the people who are admitting, please wait. No, we have an alternative method also. All those people who have logged in here have to remain here throughout the lecture series. Okay.
The chat box, you can find that link. Please, those who are there in the Zoom meeting, don't need to leave. Your attendance is taken here. The link is posted in the chat box. Check. The link is posted in the chat box.
See, those people who are in the Zoom, already the attendance has been taken, and we'll be taking the same attendance at least 2 or 3 times. So if you're missing out, so then you don't get attendance for the entire, I think even the first and the second hour, we'll be having the session, if it goes on there. So don't move from this place. If you move from this place, you miss out on the attendance. Please understand.
The YouTube link is being posted in the chat box. And those, as I said, those who are there here in the Zoom, your attendance is taken only in the Zoom.
Tony, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
I think we have to allow the guest to log in. Somebody has to allow him.
Yeah.
I'll make you the host, ma'am. And there are some people.
I've allowed him in, ma'am. I think he's coming in. He has joined.
Okay.
I think maybe you can talk to him and find out if it's not.
Hello, Esther. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, good morning.
Hey, good morning, good evening. Yeah, good morning for you. Sorry, I keep forgetting.
Yeah, we have our HOD sir here, Mr. Armstrong Das, and we have another faculty, Ganesan sir, and Tony Thomas sir is also there, and Subhanya Sarah ma'am is also there. So,
oh, wow.
All these people are there, yeah. And students are also there. I hope you're able to view all of them.
Yes, I can see many of them on the top screen.
Okay. So can we start?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, you can start.
Do you want up the PowerPoint and start driving? Yeah?
We'll just have an introduction and a word of prayer, and then we'll start.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning and a hearty welcome to one and all. I, Dia Anna Matthews, am going to be your host for the day. Today, we are all gathered here for a very special yet fruitful and an amazing session of lecture. But let us start with invoking the blessings of our Lord Almighty. I invite Evangeline Steffi for the prayer.
Let's pray. Pray for the college. O thou who in days past didst put it into the hearts of good men to found this college for the impart of sound learning, the building of character, and the spread of spiritual truth and knowledge of thyself. Bless a college and school. May love, unity, and brotherhood be learnt here. May industry, uprightness, and courage grow here, and from this place may there be sent forth continual a stream of men and women who shall serve thee faithfully in thy world. Amen.
Now I invite our head of the department, Dr. Armstrong, sir, to address the gathering.
Good morning and warm welcome to Mr. Sam Rajkumar from Accenture, who was streaming live from United States. Very happy to invite you, sir, for this inaugural Tycoon lecture series. And you know pretty well that the Department of Business Administration, Madras Christian College, we have a concept called as Tycoons Talk, where we invite people from the industry, and they've been interacting with the students. The idea behind to get the real life situation in the industry, so that the students are equipped better when they go into the industry. What is happening, they should be aware of that. So that's the purpose. And today we are very happy and fortunate to have with us a very eminent resource person, Mr. Sam Rajkumar, who's a supply chain strategist from Accenture, United States of America. And this online platform has really enabled us to connect with people around the world. And the students in India are able to connect with various people in the world. And this is the first lecture series, sir, we are having. And we are very happy and delighted to have you in as the first person to inaugurate this lecture series. And you know pretty well that supply chain management is one of the most important field in the business environment today, with customers being placed all over the world, and the manufacturing place is at one corner. It is essential to reach out to customers, okay, and the traditional supply chain concept is slowly giving way to modern supply chain concept. And this is one area which has a lot of potential, and I'm sure that our resource person would be able to enlighten our students to get into that also. And sir, we would be very happy to say that one of our students been placed in Accenture. We just had an interaction with them, and he's been placed in core HR field. And of the two people who've been selected from MCC, one is from business administration. And we're very happy to say that also, sir. And regarding Mr. Sam Rajkumar, he's having a lot of connection with MCC. So we came to know that his family members have worked in MCC, and his father-in-law was a professor in botany department, and he stayed close to Heber Gate. And we've also had interaction with him long back, and I should say about 20 years ago. And I'm very, very happy to have you, sir. And I'm sure that this particular session will be able to reconnect with the MCC, the community at large, and it will be nice and interesting. And you know that pretty well in US, so many things are happening off late, and the world is watching what is happening in US about the presidential election, who will be the next president, and things like that. And we're very happy, even in odd hours. Now we came to know that it is now late night, I should say, Thursday evening, night, and you're able to spare some time with us, and we're very happy for that. And I also take this opportunity in welcoming all the students and the faculty members, in particular, who are instrumental in making the future Tycoons. With these few words of introduction and welcome, I hand it over to the Master of Ceremony, Dia.
So our guest of speaker for the day, like HOD sir has mentioned, is Mr. Sam Rajkumar. He's working in the US with Accenture as a supply chain strategist, and he has taken time from his really busy schedule during this odd hours to be with us and to speak with us today. And I strongly feel that Mr. Sam will be able to provide us with a lot of insights and a lot of valuable information. And I would strongly recommend all of you all to keep a keen attention, pay attention to whatever he's saying, and take notes if necessary. And your queries and questions can be posted in the chat box, and they will be addressed towards the end of the session. Now I invite Mr. Sam Rajkumar to start with the session.
Well, thank you so much, Dia. I really appreciate that kind introduction. And thank you, Armstrong sir, for that beautiful words of encouragement. And of course, thank you, Professor Esther, for coordinating this whole thing. I am super happy to be here, and I know it's a little late, but you know, it's only 10:30. I feel you know, the day is still young. Um, very pleased to be with you all, and I want to say, just listening to Armstrong sir and also talking to Professor Esther over the last 2 days, um, to all the students, I must say this, that you are, every one of you is truly blessed to have professors, teachers that are so interested in your careers, in your education, and make sure that they search a lot of places to make sure that you guys are very successful. So I just want to say that right at the start. Very happy to be here. It's a privilege. I consider this an honor to address a bunch of students. My sincere hope is that for the next few minutes, I'll be able to shed some light, and hopefully it is helpful for what you've learned thus far, and also take this forward, you know, as you move into workforce. So I'm going to try to wrap this up in about, let's say, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. I certainly want to set aside some time towards the end of this hour so we can have more time for questions and dialogue. I feel that some of you, or most of you, may have questions, and I want to make sure that I take the time to answer. And we can also, you know, set aside some time in the future if that works. I am totally open to that. Okay, thank you. So somebody is driving, so that's totally fine. So let's, if you can go into the presentation mode, I would
thank you, sir.
That. Awesome. Thank you. All right, so let's move to the next slide. Thank you. So these are some of the topics I want to take some time and go through it. And I apologize. Yes, yeah.
Sir?
Yes.
So Padam Shri, sir.
Sorry, am I missing something? Somebody's trying to say something.
No, sir. You please carry on. Request all the students to mute your. Yeah. Please.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. So these are some of the topics I would like to go through today, and if some of these are a repeat and something that you already know, I apologize, but hopefully, you know, it'll be some new information. So yeah, let's go to the next slide. Again, supply chain. Most of you, let me minimize this on my right side. Okay. So this is just to get started, and I know most of you have studied supply chain. You've gone through a lot of courses in your curriculum. This is I think you're in your final year, and also looked at your program over the last 3 years. So I'm sure you all know what supply chain is, but in the interest of at the risk of repeating or stating the obvious, I'm just going to cover what supply chain is. Basically, it is an entire process of making and selling goods, period, right? So for example, if I am a company that is selling shirts to customers, so for me to place the order at a finished garment vendor, right? And then for that vendor to work with the raw material suppliers and getting all these products, the raw materials sourced, and the final assembly or the final garment is made, and then the distribution of that product from the vendor to the company, and then also ultimately selling by the sale of that product by the company to the consumer or the end customer. So this is what we call supply chain, right? This is not a new concept. You know, it has been in existence for you know, hundreds of years, right? Now, what's interesting is it's becoming more complicated. Complicated primarily because with the advent of social media and how connected everyone is, from Facebook to Instagram to Pinterest to what have you, there's data everywhere, right? Everything is connected. And also it's these days, it's becoming very challenging to understand what a customer truly wants, when a person wants something, and when they're going to change their mind. So it's becoming extremely hard to understand the behavior and also how to meet their needs at the time they need to be met, right? So that's why it's kind of complicated. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So I just want to show the types of market that is out there. So let me actually pause for a quick second. I forgot to give an introduction about myself. As you know, my name is Sam Rajkumar, and I spent 6 years in Madras Christian College, and it is truly one of my favorite times in my life. I have very fond memories of the MCC. I did BSc in physics from 90 to 93, and MCA from 93 to 96, and I was one of the first batch of MCA, right, at MCC. So then I moved to the US in 97, moved around quite a bit within the US. Now I am in Columbus, Ohio. So just a little background about myself. Just wanted to just share that I am an old MCCian, love the place. I am somewhat jealous that you're there. I always wanted to, when I was a kid, even before I went to MCC, most of my relatives worked at MCC. And so I always wanted to become a professor at MCC. Deep down, I think that's still one of my desires, but it hasn't become true yet. But maybe someday, you never know. So, okay, sorry. I just wanted to give a brief background about my MCC days. So the screen just kind of went blank on my side. I don't know if can everybody see the screen or, okay. All right, I can see it now. Okay, thank you. So these are some of the types of market that you would have come across, right? As you're searching, or buying, or doing your research. So some of the things are retail, wholesale, and omni-channel. So some examples are stores like Best Buy, Costco, which is the wholesale market where we all go and get our groceries, if you want to buy in bulk. And then of course, stores like Lululemon, right? When you think about manufacturing, Apple and Samsung, high tech like Google's and Amazon's, pharmaceuticals, and CPG, which is the consumer package goods and food. So companies like Coca-Cola, and then you have oil and gas, you have aerospace and defense, and then you have automotive. And again, clearly this is not the complete list. So there's supply chain everywhere in all markets. And ultimately it is still buying and selling, right? Planning it, buying it, or making it, and then moving the product and then selling it. That is supply chain. But what is different in all these different markets and industries there are some nuances around manufacturing. There are some nuances around taxes in finances and regulations. And in some cases, it could be, the quality. I mean, it's all sorts of different things. So that's where I think retail is very different from manufacturing, and it's very different from pharmaceutical, because they have to go through a ton of regulations, which in itself poses a lot of challenges. Okay, so let's move to the next. So some of the supply chain trends. So there's about a dozen, I'm sure there are more, but I just wanted to highlight a few to bring to our attention and how we can prepare for the future. So the first one is supply chain digitization. So what this means is, again, it's really providing a single view of the organization. Now we have, there's a proliferation of data in the last few years. There's data everywhere. There's data by way of in the system. This company collects, right, through the very organic way. And also all these social media. And sometimes companies have their called multi-channel, right? They have the typical brick and mortar store, physical store. They also have the website presence. Sometimes they are not connected. So this is what we would call a multi-channel, right? So I think what they're doing is, it's all about going digital. This has become even more such a hot topic ever since COVID. After COVID, where people are always shut down, they couldn't really move around, go to places. I think this is where most companies really felt the need to go digital as quickly as possible. And I think the companies that are not digital, I think they took a hit in terms of revenue. Okay, so that's one of the key things going on, and we'll talk about this over the next few slides. Right, going digital, right? But digital, what does it mean? What are the trends we're seeing? So that's one of the key topics. And then also the second one is really moving. Every company is wanting to move to the cloud. And there are a few reasons why they do that. Number one, future is the future. The cloud is the future, okay? The reason being, a lot of companies, if you look at companies like Walmart, look at Amazon, you look at big stores, right? All these stores, they have tons and tons of money tied to the hardware that they've bought, whether you buy software like SAP or Oracle, all these big ERP software requires a ton of memory, right? Ton of, all this hardware. So they've put in so much money, and then every time they have to upgrade, it becomes extremely complicated. And also over a period of time, they've also customized a lot of things within an ERP solution. So it makes it extremely difficult for them to be nimble, to perform at an optimal speed, and also make sure that the system is always up, no maintenance and things of that nature, which is very hard when you have on-premise hardware solution, right? So I think this now the trend is to move to the cloud. And what I mean by the second point is reduce TCO. TCO, what I'm trying to say is the total cost of ownership. When a company has so much money in the hardware, now they have to hire people to maintain the hardware, right? So you have this entire IT infrastructure team. That's a lot of money. Basically costs a lot of money every year for a company to do that. So one of the reasons they're moving to cloud is really to reduce the TCO and also make sure the system is up most of the time, because if the system goes down, the customers can't, especially if you're an online company, the customers can't log in and peruse or review and purchase. So therefore you lose money. And also what we're seeing these days is really the software as a service. Now, some of these you already know, right? You've probably done a lot of research. SaaS model, or this infrastructure as a service, or platform as a service. These are all becoming extremely common these days. Okay, next, let's go to the next point. Okay, omnichannel is the new norm. And there's a difference between multi-channel and omnichannel. Okay, so I did talk about this earlier. Multi-channel, think of a company, they have a physical store, they also have website presence, right? And they may also have other areas, okay? They may not be connected, right? They all do sell, they all look at different inventory pools within the organization, but they are not connected. In other words, a company may not know how much they sell, or the division that manages a physical store will have no idea how much the website is selling, okay? One of the companies I worked for several years ago was in a similar situation. Omnichannel is really, we're talking about a system or a landscape or ecosystem where everything is connected. If the same system, it's the same system that manages that's a backbone for physical store as well as the online, right? So now everything is connected, that is omnichannel. Said differently, in other words, I would say, in my opinion, the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel is the depth of integration. So if they're tightly integrated, if each other know what the other person is doing, then it's omni-channel. If there are multiple channels, but they're not connected, that's usually called multi-channel. And the switch is to really, these days, is to move from multi-channel to omni-channel. Okay, I will go to the next point. Okay, sustainable supply chain. Again, I'm not going to read everything line by line. I'd like to move a little faster, so we have some time for Q&A at the end. Sustainable supply chain is all about being environment friendly, right? It's moving away from plastic into cardboards and more of basically reducing the carbon footprint, right? That's another trend we're seeing in the market. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, and the growth in circular supply chain, again, this is in kind of conjunction with the previous point. It's all about circular supply chain, reusing the materials, right? We reduce the throwaways, right? It's how do we refurbish? I mean, you see this even in Google. They actually give discounts, when you buy a refurbished phone, things like that, right? You see it in Google, you see it in many other places, right? So I think the circular supply chain is becoming very popular. Agile supply chain, meaning it's how can they pivot faster, right? When the demands are changing, the demands are so volatile, demand can change anytime. We have no idea when. How do you react quickly, right? You need to have very extremely agile supply chain. In many companies today, the supply chain is very rigid, meaning their suppliers are in China or Sri Lanka or India or Vietnam, right? And the product has to go through, either ocean or air. It takes time. So in some areas, what we see is it's really the switch from offshore manufacturing to local nearby local sourcing, right? It's really moving away from this massive lead time. So if they want to, for example, if they want to stock the store, right, with all the latest product, right, fashion products, usually products, especially when you're in the fashion apparel industry, the lead time is longer depending on the product, right? It could be the lowest lead time could be 3 weeks. So when you think about stores like Zara, which is extremely successful in the supply chain, from the time they place the order to the time where the product shows to their store, it is less than 2 weeks, which is highly impressive. Not many companies can do that. Usually it takes about 8 weeks or even 10 weeks. So the agile supply chain is very critical. In fact, there are few companies, I'm not going to name the names right now, but there are few companies that have actually, they've lost their business because their supply chain is so rigid. It's not agile. And the next one is Internet of Things, right? IoT. So again, you probably already know this. You see this all the time these days because how much data you have available in social media and websites, right? And the internet and their system. And how do you connect all this? And the IoT is becoming big, especially in many like fashion companies and whatnot. One of the main use cases for IoT devices is really keeping track of the inventory. So when a product is ordered, you, based on this chip, you know exactly where your product is, how much of the product is moving, which container it's in the ship, all that good stuff, right? So keeping an eye on the inventory, having that visibility is very important. So IoT, extremely big these days. We'll come to that in a few minutes. Let's go to the next. Okay, and big data analytics and supply chain logistics, right? So here, again, big data. So we've done some projects, 2-3 years ago on big data using Hadoop and Hive and MapR, things like that. It is, because we have so much of data, you don't know which one is hot data versus warm data and cold data, right? So that's one of the reasons, the big data is becoming very popular these days, and say, we have a ton of data, but, slicing the data in a way that makes sense is very important, right? So data analytics, the data visualization is very important. So I think, again, that's another area. We'll come back to that shortly. But again, big data and data analytics and data science is becoming very, very trendy and popular in many companies these days. We can move to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, AI and ML, again, as you know, it's everywhere, right? It's becoming very, very popular. With the big data, with a ton of data around, data everywhere, I think the big push from every company is to really take away the repetitive things where the humans are doing that and really automate everything, right? Let's put AI, let's put machine language, let's get better by understanding the pattern. So that's one of the reasons, I think there are a lot of companies are going this direction, and also predictive analytics. And then AIs, as you know, AIs are replacing human beings these days, right? Especially in areas where it's repetitive, where the rules don't change. It's the same set of rules, right? It's step from 1 to step 10. It's the same exact thing for every task, right? So doing things like that, it's better for AI to do it. So we can free up humans and they can focus on more high value tasks. So that's a very important thing. The goal is not to take away the work from human beings. It is really allowing the human beings to focus on things that they're good at, okay? And the last one, I think the prescriptive analytics, moving away from it's not about predictive, it's about being very prescriptive, right? To support all the decision support algorithms and so on. Okay, I think we can move to the next slide. I know I'm talking a lot of things, and you will have access to this PowerPoint deck, and in the future, we can certainly come back to this too, right? This is another important topic, experience economy. So in the past, it's always been the quality of a product that was sold, right? And then the price point, they're all very important. Now, what's becoming more important is the experience of all of this, right? It's not just the quality and on-time delivery. It is about the experience, whether when the product is, when they don't get the product or they got the product, or it's defective, when they call the company, how are they getting service, right? For example, Amazon is one of the poster child or children, I should say, actually a child, because they are probably the only company that gives one of the best customer services according to many people, right? Because you call them and you tell them you didn't receive the product, they'll immediately ship you another. They don't ask very many questions. And also, anytime there's a defective product, they're happy to send you a replacement, right? It's all about the experience. And as you see it, it's like, I see it, I like it, I want to get it. And they don't want to wait for too long. And the winners in this experience economy are basically companies that can anticipate what the customer needs and knowing what they need and then fulfilling that and exceeding the customer desire in real time, right? These guys are going to be the winners in the future. And I was fortunate enough to work with some of the good companies in the country, and I did 2 separate projects for Google, and also I've done supply chain work for Nike last year. Both good companies, and even Google, they are one of the projects that I was working on is all around the same day delivery, right? How can they do the same day delivery? Which is, they can't do that everywhere, only on some major cities where there's actual infrastructure and network to actually support that. And then BOTUS and BOPUS, what they really means is buy online, return in store, or buy online and pick up in store. Again, this to occur, you need to have this real omni-channel landscape, right? If the technology behind the scenes is not connected, then it's hard for all these things to work, right? Because what you're selling in website, the online, the digital, has to be connected to the system that is actually selling the product through the point of sale at the physical store. So all of these need to be connected, right? So again, very important. So please remember this. I think customer experience is becoming a big thing these days. And I think the more you imbibe, the more you learn, the more you adapt, I think we will all be very successful in the future. So in digital supply chain, so in 2019 World Economic Forum, they're talking about how there's so much of disruptive technologies in logistics, and it makes it extremely daunting. And at that time, they said you can actually go to the website and you can actually see the full report. And they said companies, because there's so much data and there's so much disruption going on, in order to make sense of all this, I think companies need to invest in blockchain, IoTs, and robotics, right? Automation and data science, right? And there's a little, snippet for each of those. Blockchain, based on my research, I think it's still evolving, only because there's a lot of governance around blockchain, and I think all the parties need to align on the governance rules. I think until such time, I think blockchain is still evolving. And there's companies wanting to invest more money, but we haven't really seen that picked up yet. Okay, so I'm sure it's all going to change soon. And then of course, robotic process automation. And the other thing you see is you see robots, and you also hear something called cobots, which is cobot really means collaborative robots, meaning these are robots that will actually assist human being in getting a task completed, right? So again, data science is important. So when it comes to data science, I don't know, I don't have full access to how much you read about a lot of technology. And I know it's a lot about business and administration, which is a great platform, great one to get a degree on. But I don't want this presentation to sound like I'm only talking about technology, right? Because if you look at my background, even though I have a technology degree, for the last 15, 18 years, I've been working very closely with the business. So there's a ton of opportunities for the business analyst, somebody that knows the industry, right? Understand the pain points in the industry, and allowing the companies, the business leaders to understand that, right? And then how to integrate the business process with technology. There is still a lot of value in doing that work, right? So it's got nothing to do with technology, but knowing more about the industry and be aware of technology is very important, right? To be effective in that role. Okay, we can move to the next. So digital disruption, again, I'll pick up the pace a little bit so we have more questions, time for the Q&A later. So some of the metrics you see here, right? I mean, there's 83% of companies use public cloud. The data explosion, 90% of data generated in the world is all occurred within the last 2 years. Okay, and more than 50% of commerce transactions are through mobile. things are changing. The landscape is changing, right? It's no longer the day where people always go to the store, right? Things are changing. And of course, these are some companies that are actually already doing this hyper connectivity. When you look at Under Armour, they're already doing this connected fitness apparel, accessories, and apps, right? It's all about big data and machine learning and cloud and connection. The interconnectedness is very important, and Red Bull and Uber, all of these are good examples. Okay, we can actually move to the next slide. Thanks. Okay, so this one is all about digital transformation. I wanted to show this. This I pulled from SAP website. SAP is one of the big, ERP software giants in the world, right? Most of you must be familiar with this software. But if you look at this trend, back in the early 70s and 80s, it's all about industrial automation. Then it moved into business process automation. In the early 2000s, it's all about digital transformation. And now it's all about intelligent enterprises. Okay, that's where the market is. Now, if you watch the graph, what it says is, back in the 70s, I think they're more focused on this repetitive tasks, right? How do you automate those things, right? A little bit, and then automation picked up as we continue into 80s and 90s and 2000s. The automation had picked up, and then the high value tasks. This is what I was talking about, where all the repetitive tasks, you do machine learning, right? You do this AI, and then you free up the human being so they can focus on the high value tasks. So that is what this graph is trying to represent. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So when you think about intelligent enterprise, because that's where we're all going, right? If you think about the experience, the little circle on the left is all about, think of that as you're the company in the middle. To your left, about customers and consumers and people that are, you're basically providing service to. And the circle on the right is basically your supply chain, meaning your vendors and where you're getting the product from, or it could be people within your organization, things like that, right? So it is really bringing those two things together in order to not only to increase the visibility from end to end, but also providing an idea as where your product is, making sure that you understand your supply chain. If there is some kind of political issue or climate issue, environmental issue anywhere in the world, you need to know what the impact is on your supply chain, so you can make some corrective actions, some mitigating actions. So this is where companies are going. So most of the projects that our Accenture company is working on right now is all about taking those companies to this intelligent enterprise. In fact, one of the companies that worked for last year, big shoe manufacturer, right? It's all about connection and moving from wholesale market into retail and giving more control to the consumer, right? So I think that's where all the connectedness, interconnectivity, that's very important. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Thanks. Okay, so I wanted to just list some of the tools. Again, if I apologize if this is a repeat, if you already know this, but I put them in some category that may make sense to you all. So these are some tools that we see in the market, especially some of the big companies that use these tools today. Yeah. So ERP, enterprise, resource planning. So it's all these are all the core tools these are big systems that most companies have. Now, this is not the complete list. So SAP, S/4HANA, Oracle, Microsoft, and all these are common, and there's a few more. And then planning and collaboration. Then you look at reporting and big data. These are all extremely popular tools. So if you're in technology and if you'd like to secure a job in the future, or if you want to hang on to something solid, these are some good software, right, that you can pick and then kind of plan your career towards that. Again, it's technology. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? These may be good today. Next year, it may not be. So use that with caution. Do your research as well. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea. What are some common things we see in the market today? Okay, we can go to the next. Okay, and finally, some essential supply chain management skills. So I can attest to these. These are extremely important, especially as BBA, bachelor's, the business administration degree, as you enter the marketplace. These are extremely important. Number one is business skills, right? Because you're all business graduates. You are expected to understand the business or understand the nuances of each business. So as whatever the line of business that you're fascinated about, for example, some of you may like retail, some may like manufacturing, some may like pharmaceutical, hospital industry, or oil and gas. Whatever it is, make sure you do some research and what supply chain looks like, right? So having that business knowledge is important. And then the general industry awareness, right? For example, if you're working for let's say if you want to go into the retail, for example, retail is all about contract manufacturing. Most retailers do not manufacture their own product. Intellectual property, but they have somebody else for them. So it's all third-party manufacturing. So understanding the nuance is very important. And also, even though you're a business graduate, you're not, you may not be into technology, but knowing what technology to use where, how they all come together. Again, having that understanding, right? A pulse on that, pulse check is very important. And also people skills. Again, this is so important in the business world today. It's not enough anymore that a person is good at content expertise, meaning if you're good at, let's say, for example, Oracle or SAP, it's not good enough anymore. Every company is looking for somebody that has blended skills, meaning a technology skill and also business skills and also people skills. The interpersonal skills is very important for anybody to be successful. Okay, so I want to emphasize this point. It's all about building people relationship, right? Networking, collaboration is very important. Understanding the culture, right? Especially when you're working for a big conglomerate, right? Big companies, you're going to work with people from different parts of the world. So it's really understanding where they come from, understanding their culture, background is all very important. Okay, we can move to the next. Okay, these are some most in-demand skills. And again, even if you do Google search, you'll see most of it, right? But these are some things I know based on my experience, my colleagues' experience. This is something we see all the time. Cloud and distributed computing, AI, analytical reasoning, UX design. So that's something that's becoming popular in the last 2 to 3 years. And in fact, there are some universities in the US, they actually offer courses in the UX, which is, it's all user experience. It's all about design thinking, right? It's about how to get, implement the iterative process in order to get the optimal solution for the client, right? So the design thinking is very important. Data science, data visualization, mobile, app development, business analysis. And then of course, the area that I'm in is supply chain planning and collaboration. That's all I've done most of my career. So again, we see a lot of need on that one too. We can move to the next. Okay, so some of you may already know this, and again, I'm putting myself in your shoes, meaning when I was doing my last year in MCA, even though it was a graduate degree, I used to be so nervous in terms of when am I going to get the job? How do I know what job I want? I was very confused, nervous. I wish somebody had taken the time to tell me how to prepare some of the things. So again, you may already know this, but because I went back in time and realized how much nervousness that I had during the last year. I put some of these points together, right? One of the first things is a resume. Please make sure that your resume is not more than 2 pages long. I know it will be tempting for you to write 4 pages, 5 pages, but I've hired a lot of people, and I'm sure your professors will attest to this too. When you get a resume, especially when you get 50, hundreds of resumes, you don't have time to go through 4 pages of information on one person. So it is very important for you to summarize who you are and what you do, what your passion is in 1 to 2 pages. Now, right, because you're just coming out of college, it may be okay. After working in the marketplace for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that's when it becomes difficult because you have so much experience. At some point, you need to make a decision to leave out some of the information. Now, I don't say leave it out, but you have to know how to aggregate your information, right? So instead of focusing on the micro, you need to focus on the macro. You need to be a storyteller. So that's where you take some time. I know there's a ton of examples out there in Google, internet on resume building, right? So talk to your peer, talk to your mentor. Make sure you build your resume, keep it short, okay? But focus on what your brand is. When I say your brand, it is like what makes you, right? You have to understand that is, and you need to be able to market that, and share your passion, your experience, and don't put everything in resume, right? Because then there won't be anything for you to talk when you actually go meet the person face to face. So always leave some for talking, right? But make sure your resume is short and concise and to the point. LinkedIn, make sure you have a LinkedIn. I'm sure most of you do. Again, apologize if it's a repeat, but LinkedIn is not a resume. So do not, copy paste resume into LinkedIn. You don't want that. You don't want everybody in the world to see what you've done, what your background is, your birth date is, none of that, right? So LinkedIn has to be very professional, just summary. And, if you need to keep it vague, that's fine. But again, very important. I think, in my opinion, LinkedIn is very important to build your network, right? And of course, that leads into next. And then, of course, demonstrated interest. Again, that's a very important thing. You're like, that's most companies are looking to that, right? Because they interview a lot of people, and whoever follows through, right, whoever shows a demonstrated interest, to work for the company, they usually stand apart. And also build leadership abilities, right? There's a ton of leadership content out on the internet, right? Pick one, constantly refresh yourself, right? Because it is a process, right? It's like leaders are not just born that way, right? Every leader was working hard. So spend some time, build those abilities. And then also, I don't know about India, but I'm sure it is. But here, at least in the US, most companies are interested in who you are. Are you a well-rounded person? Meaning, are you just book smart, or are you also a socially responsible person, right? So they always like when somebody is, working for giving back to the community, volunteering somewhere, right? Working in an old age home, spending some hours, whatever it is. So think about it, right? It's a good one to note in your resume or even in LinkedIn. Always focus on passion. I wish somebody had actually truly told me this earlier, because as anybody, I also chase money. But then I realized it's good for a little while, but then if you only chase money and if your heart is not in it, it's not going to last very long. So make sure that whatever you're doing, that you're passionate about, other things are going to follow, right? Just play the long game. And have the elevator pitch ready. What I mean by that is, elevator pitches usually we say 30 seconds or less. The idea, what I'm trying to say is, let's say you're catching an elevator, you're going up to 5th floor, and there's another extremely, important influential person that you happen to talk to. If that person were to ask you, hey, what would you like to do? Who are you? Tell me, right? You don't have much time, right? 30 seconds maximum. What would you say about you in that 30 seconds? That's what I'm talking about when I say elevator pitch, right? Have that ready. And always practice, practice, practice. Very important, right? I do this even today, right? Before every presentation, I usually stand in front of a mirror. Not all the time, most of the time, depending on how critical the meeting is, right? I actually go through a little bit of a dress rehearsal with myself in front of a mirror. So it's very important, because every time you do it, every time you refine, the product gets better and better, okay? And when you go to an interview, make sure you understand it is a two-way street, okay? It is not just the employer asking you questions. You need to also ask some questions, because the job is that you need to make sure the job that you're landing is a good fit for you, as the employer is making sure that you're a good fit for the company. So it's very important that you also research about the company ahead of time, have 2 or 3 questions ready, and then ask those questions. I think that's very important. Actually, it tells them that you've done some research, you'll come prepared, and you're also interested in making sure that you also want to make sure the company will be a good fit for you. Okay, so just wanted to share some thoughts. We can go to the next. Sorry, I'm taking more time. I think we can. All right, so we can pass. I think we can read through later, but again, focus on, learn about Agile, Kanban, and Scrum methodologies. Very common these days. Very, very important. Okay, we can go to the next. Thank you. Okay, we can go through these fast. I'll let you read this too. But again, what I'm saying is authentic leadership is a mixture of character and competence. What I'm trying to say, it's if you have a good heart and a sound mind, trust me, sky is the limit, right? So again, deliberate experimentation is more important than deliberate practice. What I'm trying to say is experiment, do practice, experiment, right? Always be curious. It's very important. Ask a ton of questions. Only by asking questions, we learn more about anything, right? So always be curious. Okay, so what I'm going to, so the next slide has a video. Actually, there's 3. The first one is about 2 minutes long. The other ones, we don't have to watch it. Maybe we'll just watch the first one, and then maybe we'll have some Q&A. And then I'll be happy to answer the questions. I'm not saying anything. If you'd like me to try this, please let me know. I can do that too.
Professor Tony? Professor Tony?
Okay, would you like me to try?
Check.
Yeah, let me do this. Let me share. Okay, it's doing something. Okay.
The supply chain is drastically changing. With the increase in technology, the access to data, and making that available across your end-to-end network, what it might look like in 5 years' time is very different from today.
Products, workforce, industrial assets will be connected. Collaborative robots will support the operator to work in a better and a safer way.
Is going to be enabled through technology, through ecosystems, through people and capabilities that only we can dream of at the moment.
The changes that we are seeing in the market are quite dramatic. And if organizations aren't looking for where disruption has come, they're going to be disrupted themselves.
I think historically, supply chain was relegated to being a back office support function. I think as we move forward, it's not just about having a great product or service, it's about delivering a great customer experience. Customers want choice, they want personalization, they want what they want, where they want it, when they want it, and all those have implications on the supply chains.
One of the key barriers to modernizing the supply chain is just understanding the digital technology landscape out there, whether that be blockchain or robotics or AI, but one of the biggest challenges our clients face is sorting through that noise.
Not asking which technology will be implemented, but which set of skills and competencies the supply chain will need to allow this vision of the future.
There is a huge amount of upskilling, knowledge transfer, different skills that are going to be required for supply chain professionals over the next 5 to 10 years.
An organization with a successful supply chain is well connected to its customers and using internal and external information to flow that through end to end. So it can be very proactive in the way that it manages that to meet those customer needs.
The future supply chain will not be able to deliver all the competencies and capabilities itself. It will need to tap into an ecosystem of cloud providers, different technologies, understand where it can leverage those skills, where it can supplement what their core capabilities are.
They're able to operate with all of their partners as one virtual organization with shared information, shared process, shared decision support. Those are the companies that are going to win.
So I think there's a couple more, but we don't have to go through that now. I know we don't have much time. I hope we'll have some time to answer any Q&A. Are there any questions? I'm sorry, sir. Are there any? I don't know. Any questions from the group?
Yes, Dia. What is the process? Do you already have a plan in place? Q&A.
So far, no one yet has posted, but I do have a question for Mr. Sam. Hello, good morning, sir. So, what is your take on the future scope in supply chain field? Because me personally, I am interested in the supply chain field. My dad works in logistics. So growing up, I've seen him work in the field. I sometimes do help him to sending quotation mails and all. So I would really like to step into this field. And what is your take? Because my father always used to tell me that business is never ending. So the logistics and the supply chain is also not going to end. So what is your take?
I think supply chain is the future. Like I said, it always existed, right? Now it's becoming even more critical. And I think logistics is one of the areas that is actually booming. It is very stable. When I say stable, it is not as volatile as retail, meaning because in retail, you have a lot of players, right? There's a lot of competition. Everybody knows how to do the retail business, or at least the retail players, but there's so many. So there's so much competition. So it's an ever-changing landscape. When you think about logistics, logistics still part of the supply chain, right? I think it's not going to slow down. It's only going to get crazier and better. And I think that's where I think supply chain, I am passionate about supply chain, primarily because, like you said, it's not going to end anytime soon, right? As long as people want clothes, right? People want to eat, as long as they want to build homes, supply chain has to exist, right? It's, I think the important thing is going to be not throw away what we've learned, but how do we adapt to the new and how do we change to the future, right? I think that's where we need to embrace some of the new things. Like personally, I'm not a big fan of social media, okay? I am sort of a private person, but when it comes to work, I need to embrace that. I cannot, my personal opinion about Facebook, that shouldn't let me deter away from my professional work, right? So there are some things we need to understand what ticks in the market, what makes it successful. So I think it's really going to get crazier and better in a good way, right? So I still think there's a lot of opportunity. So I would say, I would encourage, if you like logistics, if you like supply chains, go for it. There is so much need all over the world, especially in the US, right? So good question.
Hemish has a question. Ask him to unmute. Sir, you are the host, sir. Armstrong, sir.
Sir, can you hear me? Hello. Yes, sir.
Okay, which
sir,
one
can
is
you
it?
hear me?
Yes, Hamish, you're here. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
So
I can hear you.
Yes, sir. Can you tell me about digital marketing scopes and related jobs in future? What is the scope of digital marketing in today's field and about future?
So, digital marketing, I need to be honest with you. I'm not big into marketing, but I want to say because digitization is really big in all the areas, right? Especially in the supply chain, I am going to extend that to say, therefore, marketing is big on that too, right? But I don't want to feed any incorrect information, so I want to be careful. But what I will do is let me do some research. If I find additional data points, I will certainly share that with the Professor Esther to send that to you. Let me make a quick note, okay? I apologize, I don't have a whole lot of information, but I'll try to find some and then send it your way. Is that okay?
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I apologize. I feel like I know there's a lot of things to cover. I may have gone a little faster in some areas, but I apologize if, like I said, if the, if the leadership is okay, we can always do another session in the future too. I am perfectly, okay to, host another Q&A too. So I just want to just be clear. I'm sorry if I took too much time.
Okay, sir. Now we are very happy about it, and so I'm really, wholeheartedly, thank all the effort you've taken. A couple of ideas, because like when students are ready with the questions, maybe that's okay. But I have a few, myself. One is,
sure.
so how do you compare the supply chain management in a developed country like US with that in India? Because I have a feeling that US is at least 10 years, 15 years ahead of what India is right now. And India, particularly with a whole lot of population, like the second populous country in the world. Do you think that slowly this organized retail is going to take its place?
It's an excellent question. I often hear, and I know there's a lot of truth to it, this, and they're actually projecting India to be the second biggest economy by 2050, right? In the sense, China is going to be number one in India, and India is going to be beating US, right? This is what they're projecting. And then we also hear a lot of great supply chain movement that is occurring in India. So I feel, in some regards, India is not that far behind the US. I think I see some difference is in the US, there's some companies have a lot of money. They have the means to go after something that they truly want to, and they can bring the right resources to do the work. What I feel, again, I've not done a whole lot of research, but in India, there's a ton of people with the resources to do the work, but I feel like there may not be enough companies that want to take some risk to go in this new direction. But that said, when I think about Amazon's wanting to come in, right? There's companies in India that are wanting to do all of that. Now, I'm not really up to date on all the supply chain innovation work that's going on in India, but I feel India is catching up faster. And even my peers and some of the leaders, they're not worried, but they are extremely amazed at how fast India is picking up, right? In fact, I think in NPR a couple of years ago, I heard a comment. They said, if only India and China figure out a way to work together, they'll be the superpower right now, beating US, which is it's a great thing to hear about India. So I feel there's still a ton of opportunities. I think you see more movement in the US only because of the amount of companies and probably the amount of money and resources that are readily available. I think, in my humble opinion, that's what I feel.
Well said, sir. One more I have. So you mentioned that AI, artificial intelligence is the mechanism by which it is trying to replace human beings. And maybe in the supply chain also, we'd be having a lot of like this AI being used. So do you think maybe that would work out in a country like India? Because in US it is okay, but no, as far as India is concerned, everyone wants to get into the job, being replaced by robots and all that. Do you think that is going to stay?
I don't think robots are going to work in India, right? I think because there's so many people looking for a job, I think this is where I think companies need to be, they have to carefully balance what is right versus what is technology, what is innovation, right? We cannot sacrifice human beings at the expense, in the interest of advancing in some technology. So that is unethical. I first certainly don't think that may take off, like it does in the US, right? It may not. Even in the US too, I wouldn't really generalize and say robots are taking over all human. It's only what they're trying to say is any repetitive tasks, right? Things that where you don't have to apply too much brain power, right? Only those let the robots do, so we can free up the humans to do some things that humans are good at. Now, this is an interesting topic, right? Because if you go to the distribution centers and warehouses, there's all these people, their livelihood is dependent on that work, right? Yes, the robot can do it, but it's not like these guys are going to become buyers and demand forecasters and planners and, financiers. So I think that's still a big debate, I think. But I think when you think about companies like Amazon's, right? When you, Best Buys, they are all thinking along those lines. I think even Best Buy, sorry, I'm digressing a little bit. Best Buy, they're thinking about the retail. What does a future store is going to look like? One of the things, we had a meeting last week in the company, we talked about how they are, again, I can't share too much, but it's all about giving that experience to the customer. It's almost like, letting them do this treasure hunt type of experience right within the store, basically allowing customers to shop how they want it, right? It's a very different way of doing things. And so all that to say this, I think, to your question, I don't think robots are going to take over, India. I think it'll be a long time before that happens, but sorry for the long-winded.
Any other questions do we have? Students, quickly. Is there any questions in the
I'm sure, sir. I have a quick question. Is this these are final year students? Is this a 3-year course? Is that correct?
Exactly, sir. This is a 3-year program, undergraduate business administration program. Our focus is purely on the functional areas, and we also have a concept called SPSS. It's something related to our language also, where they do a lot of analysis, business analysis, and all that. And they apply that in their internship. When they go and do their internship in the final semester, they'll be applying that also. So it's a mix of like a kind of a technology. I wouldn't say absolute technology, but data analysis. They are doing data analysis.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. One thing I wanted to say to the students was, I know some of them, some of you may be nervous, maybe not. Maybe I was the only one that was nervous back then. But what I want to say is this. Pick an area, right? Business that you're really work in, right? Passionate about, you're interested, you have a natural ability, let's say in retail or logistics. Pick an area and then pick a technology. You don't have to master it, but know enough to be dangerous. That's all you need, right? After that, it's all about research. It's getting into a company, because no matter which company you got to get into, they have to train you, right? So at that point, you just grab onto that, do your job, and don't worry about step 10. Just worry about what is the next step, right? And be diligent and be true to yourself and be good at it. And I'm sure, things will get better, right? And I used to worry so much, but I think, as I continue to focus on what the job that's given to me, and I think, things show up, and then, sometimes, the opportunities come in a very different way, right? So it's being able to discern, being able to understand, and then, sometimes you have to take some calculated risks, right? So don't be nervous. There's so many opportunities. So just enjoy life as you do this. That's very important.
Okay. Dia,
so I think we're coming to the end of this session. I would like to convey my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Sam sir to take time for us even during this odd hours. And amidst this pandemic, we are really lucky to have an international speaker with a lot of experience and in such a different kind of a platform for an interactive session. I would also like to thank our department, especially Esther ma'am and our HOD sir for organizing this beautiful session for us. It was really informative, and we hope to see you soon in future, and I hope you and your family are safe also, sir.
Thank you so much. It was truly a pleasure. Really enjoyed talking to you, and I wish I had more time, but I truly consider this an honor and a privilege. And thank you, Professor Esther, for coordinating this, and Armstrong sir, nice to connect with you also. I wish you all the very best. You're all going to do great. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. And if there are any questions, feel free to send them through, Professor Esther. Okay, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And
okay,
definitely we'll be, in touch and get connected, and definitely, we'll have more inputs to the students in your future.
Yes. Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, have a good one. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, I think the students now, thank you very much now for being here, and see the second hour attendance has also been considered. So please attend the third hour, attend the third hour, and we have one more session. Maybe you can relax and come back for that. It will be more nice and interesting on HR, civility at work. Thank you. Thank you, Dia. Thank you, Esther ma'am. Thank you all the faculties and students. Thank you. You can leave now. Third hour, please attend. Thank you.